It's Saturday, and we have been inside all day. We've played Battleship, Twister, Candyland, Parcheesi, Sorry. Little colored wooden men go around and around, fighting to get into their plastic domed homes while we want out of ours. I feel coated with a layer of grease, a combination of my own and my brother's sweat from an ongoing wrestling match, from the invisible residue of artificial lights on skin, from animal dander, from furniture polish rubbed through my t-shirt each time I slide across the dining room table, and from floor wax rubbed through my socks from sliding down the halls. The small TV in the room by the kitchen, where the new maid, Rose, who replaced Irma, lives, plays cartoons, while Rose irons my father's Hanes undershirts and white handkerchiefs. Twangy boings and, "Hey, what's up, Dax?" repeat like the endless loop of background cacti and desert mountain. I feel sick to my stomach just being in the same room with it. Our mother is in her bedroom, leaning over her sewing machine. The machine has traveled from her farm girl childhood to our city apartment and has the appearance to prove it. Giant and bulbous, it looks like a relic. But when she unpacks it and packs it, pulling off or setting spools on levers, threading and unthreading, her movements are slow and measured and reverent. When I was younger, I used to make all my clothes, she has told me. Now large swaths of fabric are spread out on the floor and on the bed. We have 1 month till Halloween, and I need to get these done. My youngest brothers are old enough to trick or treat, and this will be our first Halloween. She is making our costumes. A few days ago, she spread the simplicity patterns on her bed and let us choose which animal we wanted to be. Jay chose the yellow duck costume, Greg a shaggy dog, I chose the gray mouse with long white whiskers and a pink nose, and Bratty the black and white spotted Dalmatian. I'm lying on her bed, watching her pump her foot on the pedal and feed the fabric through the needle that bobs so fast it's a blur. Then she snaps a switch and the needle slows, then stops. The hum of the machine quiets. She lifts up the arm, pulls out the material still attached by several threads, and holds up my gray mouse costume. She leans back and looks it over, seemingly glad to take a moment to appreciate her handiwork. The costume has a white stomach and a long pink tail. These are full-body costumes, complete with fur paws, and they cover us from the tips of our fingers down to our feet. They even include fur hoods adorned with ears and whiskers. She's made them big so that we can wear them again next year. Bratty's walking into our game and knocking over the pieces. Greg, 9, appears through the dressing room that connects my brother's bedrooms and my parents' room. The original one room that Greg and I shared, my mother has proudly divided. How many apartments in New York City have rooms that are so big, 14-foot ceilings, they can become 4? So each of my 3 brothers can have his own room. Greg and Jay, the oldest boys, have rooms on the 2nd floor, accessed by ladder. Bratty's is on the ground floor, a fact he hates. Next to the 4th room, which has a small guest bed and houses our toys, our mother calls it the playroom. Greg is wearing only a pair of cotton briefs. His naked skin is golden brown. He and Bratty both look perpetually tan, their skin smooth. It seems completely natural to me that I know my brother's bodies as well as I know my own. Jay, 8, has the palest skin of all of us, narrow wrists and ankles, soft blonde curls and light blue eyes, always flushed, feverishly pink cheeks. Both Greg and Bratty's nipples are brown and round like copper pennies. Greg has a long body, long legs and arms. Brad has boxy toes, and his feet are square and slightly pigeon-toed. When he was a baby, he had to wear a brace between his baby shoes that held his legs so his feet would turn outward. He lay in his crib and screamed. his battles with the world beginning early. "Bradford, come play a game with Christine." "No!" Brady's 6-year-old voice pipes from the bedroom. "He won't leave us alone." Greg's shoulders are back, his chin jutting forward. He usually considers it our mother's responsibility to set his inconveniences right. Greg knows all the important things before I do, but right now, and often, Brady is an affront he doesn't want to manage. The next step for Greg will be to use his fists and for Brady to fight back, an outcome that is fairly regular between these two brothers born on the same day, 4 years apart. In the other room, Jay and Brady are conversing. Jay's voice is low and soothing. I imagine his and Brady's heads bent over the game pieces as Jay includes him in some manner, sensing in his fragile way that Brady barrels in strongest when he feels most excluded. "Bradford, will you find my handkerchief from Grandpa?" my mother calls. "You're my best finder." Brady's footsteps are instantly quick and loud as this distraction works, and he runs down the hallway toward the laundry room and comes back with a sheer white handkerchief, hands it to our mother, and crawls up beside me on our parents' bed. Greg has slipped back into the playroom to finish the game. The term will come later. Hyperactive. Right now, all we know is that most of us usually attempt to put distance between ourselves and the cloud of constant frenetic energy around Brady. I compensate by sometimes stepping in to try and help when he and Greg butt heads, but mostly Brady travels in sort of bubble of isolation, attempting to relate to Greg and Jay, his older brothers, by annoying them. Now my father's high-pitched voice travels down the hallway from the kitchen. I can't make out what he's saying, but home from whatever mysterious Saturday work goings-on he was engaged in, he's loud. Adrenaline instantly shoots hot from my chest down into my legs. His energy, like Brady's, makes it impossible to relax. He chews gum too fast and talks too loudly, becomes angry when any clutter piles up on a countertop, when we leave a plate on the kitchen table or a toy in the hall. Right now, I'm hoping he is joking with Rose, and this is the reason his voice is carrying. Brady jumps off the bed, heads through the dressing room and into his room. I want to retreat into my room too, but my father is coming down the hall now, his voice still strident, his leather-soled footsteps percussion strikes on the bare wood. He will hit my room at the elbow of the turn in the hall from the kitchen to the bedrooms first. "Containers on every refrigerator shelf? Is it too much to ask for order?" He is directing his attention to Rose in the kitchen, but his speed tells me that he is bringing whatever problem he is having with him and will shortly unleash it upon this end of the apartment. I duck into the playroom at the last minute, just before he rounds the turn. 5 containers of rotting fruit. I have an urge to hide in the closet. I crouch beside Jay and Greg's battleship game instead. My heart is thudding against my ribcage. What have I left lying around? But he strides past our door without looking and enters his bedroom. "Is there a reason we are saving 5 containers of rotten fruit?" My mother's voice is low, and I can't hear her words, but clearly she is attempting to calm him. What she won't say is that she doesn't like to throw anything away. She has told my brothers and me the story of her Uncle Herman, who died trying to get the last bit of a gravel delivery out of a raised dump truck bed with a stick. While scraping, he triggered the release mechanism and the bed of the truck fell backward and crushed him. It's a cautionary tale we don't adhere to. My mother wants to get the last drop of use out of everything. So our countertops are cluttered with items waiting to be needed. Used notebooks, broken pencils and crayons, loose nails and screws, a pile of socks with no mates. In the fridge, her need to find a use for everything translates into shelves full of containers of mostly eaten food, which she will bring out with a flourish every time we sit down to a meal and attempt to coax us into finishing the last wedge of now oxidized brown apple or the tablespoon of cottage cheese left at the bottom of the plastic container. Now, my father responds to whatever she is saying by maintaining his decibel level. Is it too much to ask to open the refrigerator and find order? No, it's not too much to ask, Edgar, to open the refrigerator and find what you're looking for in it, our mother says stiffly. She's already had enough of us. We were having a nice enough time before he barged in. His decibel level raises as he says, it's not too much to ask to come home to a refrigerator where I can find something I want to eat. It's certainly not too much to ask for order in the kitchen. Silence. I imagine her arranging her fabric pieces methodically. Like Greg, my father holds my mother responsible for his inconveniences. I know from experience that he will not let her off the hook, regardless of her attempts to disengage from the confrontation. His decibel level quickly raises again to an impossible scream I could not have imagined a man could make. God damn it! This is my house, and I get to decide how things are around here! The final tactic. Escape. She is out of the bedroom and passes the open playroom door. He follows her down the hall, roaring, I am fighting for my life here, Carol! A muffled, angry tangle of voices from the kitchen, a bang, something being thrown, another bang, a crash. My father's voice is at its highest pitch now. Then a door slams loudly and there is silence. He has left the apartment. I feel awash in cool relief. Then hot panic. It is so quiet. Now, is our mother all right? After a moment, she passes us in the hallway, walking like she is tiptoeing. I love you, children. She stands at the doorway in her thin nightgown. We look up at her. She looks pale, shaken. We love you, Mom, we chorus. Then she is gone, heading back to her bedroom. I wrap my index and middle fingers around a few tendrils of hair at the nape of my neck and pull. The tug and then the snap of the hair as it releases from my scalp feels satisfying. I hold the hair in the crook of my index finger and insert my thumb into my mouth, rubbing the hair against my upper lip. The hair balls up. This will be a good piece of fuzz, I can tell. Not too big, not too small. It is already compacting the way I like it, into a ring. One side of the ring solidifying, the other staying soft. I like both, the soft and the hard against my lip. I flip the fuzz, taking turns with each side. My thumb is warm along the roof of my mouth. It fits snugly against the top of my tongue, follows the curves of my palate, fills in all gaps. I realize I'm not sure why I am awake. Then, leather-soled footsteps coming down the hall. My whole body tenses. I must have heard the door as my father re-entered the apartment. I have an urge, as his footsteps get louder, it sounds as if he is walking straight into my room, to slide out of my covers and under the bed. But now his footfalls are receding as he heads for his bedroom, where my mother sleeps. I wait for her sharp protest, his matching high-pitched accusation, but I can hear only the dark, dense silence of our apartment at night. The whoosh and gurgle of the steam pipes, the Dakota's heating system, and the walls. I'm not proud of myself when I lose my temper, my father has told me. He must be apologizing, promising my mother it will never happen again. It's Halloween night, and my mother is sitting at her sewing machine, cranking the foot pedal and sliding yellow fabric under the bobbing needle while my brothers and I lie in our underwear at the foot of her bed. Finally, she stands up from her sewing table, triumphant. She bites the remaining attached threads and holds up Jay's duck hood, showing us where she has just finished attaching the orange felt bill. We jump down from the bed as she checks for pins in all 4 costumes, then hands me and Greg ours, helps Jay with his, and dresses Bratty. We follow her down our long hall. She opens the double front doors of the formal entrance to our apartment and ushers us through. We go out the front doors and pad with our mouse and duck and dog feet onto the cold white with diamonds of black marble of the lobby, which is dimly lit and empty and smells like our apartment, though the oily aroma of wood polish, of dust and wood hangs thicker here. They are heavy smells, Dakota smells. Although there is an elevator, my mother has told us that the Dakota was the first building in New York to have one. She leads us to the staircase. The staircase is rimmed by a carved dark wood banister and winds up to the next floor. I tilt my head back. From this vantage, the bottom of the stairway spirals up in perfect symmetry against the white underside, floor after floor to a white ceiling 10 stories up. Swept up in the geometry, for a moment, I lose my bearings. Am I looking up or down? Until my mother nudges my shoulder with her hip. This way now, Christine. She steps onto the first marble stair, holding Jay and Bratty's hands. Greg and I follow. I slide my slippers as I go. Surrounded by stillness, it seems as if we are the only people to have ever walked these stairs. We reach the second floor landing, approach heavy double front doors that look exactly like ours on the floor below. Everything about this floor is a replica of ours. Black and white checked marble landing, the door exactly the same, but also slightly off. The light on this landing isn't quite like our light, and this foyer leads to both the flight up and the flight down, and doesn't have the extra expanse as our ground floor apartment does, leading out to the courtyard. My mother knocks, then stands back. My mouse suit feels too hot, and I wonder if I can take off the hood without hurting her feelings. If it's true that there are many famous inhabitants living in the Dakota because of the gate and the security, people who don't want to be bothered, it doesn't make sense that she is so eager to knock on this door. She knocks again, steps back again. I'm just about to suggest we move to the next floor when the sound of deadbolts clicking rings into the otherwise silence. The door opens, a figure steps into the doorway, a woman with broad masculine shoulders and a square jaw. She is very tall, and the dim white light from the sconces on the wall throws shadows around her deep-set eyes and around her mouth and cheekbones. I take a step back. Greg and Jay step forward. Trick or treat, they say in unison. The woman smiles, but the shadows on her face remain, and my mother has to reach back and pull me forward. I hold out my plastic orange pumpkin pail. The woman drops in 2 large-sized Tootsie Pops. What darling costumes, she says in an unexpectedly gravelly voice. Her voice is deeper than my father's. Happy Halloween, my mother says. Can you say thank you to Ms. Bacall? My mother has told me that she is very famous and very reclusive, which seems to explain, in part, her appearance. Thank you, we say in chorus as she smiles, nods, and closes the door. We repeat this procedure on each floor, though I don't recognize anyone else famous. I've taken to pulling off my hood while we walk and settling it back down when it's time to knock on another door. I'm not sure how I feel about Halloween if we're just gonna go up and down this one staircase, though my brothers are smiling from ear to ear. We have been given more candy than we've ever held in our hands at one time. Milky Way bars, 3 Musketeers, Sugar Daddies, Tootsie Pops, Tootsie Rolls. Once we are back inside our apartment, my mother gathers up our pails. "I will keep them separate, but I want to hold on to them," she says. "You'll get sick if you eat all this candy at once." She gives us each a Tootsie Pop and unzips my brother's costumes. The zippers run all the way down the back, then mine. Down the hall, my mother is bathing my brothers in the children's bathroom by the laundry room. I have the bathroom and the study to myself. This is the only time I like being at this end of the apartment. My mother has poured in Mr. Bubble, and the froth and foam around me, it looks like millions of tiny round enclosures. I peer into the bubbles. Their walls shimmer with color and reflect the light from the sconces over the medicine cabinet. I imagine myself miniature, living inside these tiny, cozy, shimmering spaces. "Ready?" My mother appears with a towel. I climb out and she wraps the terry cloth around me, helps me step into my footy pajamas. My father is home and in the butler's pantry by the dining room scooping ice. I pass him on my way to the kitchen to get a cup of water. The rest of the apartment is quiet. My brothers are in bed. He kisses me on the cheek, his lips wet, his breath hot with the aroma of liquor. "Hi, darling," he says, relaxed. On the way back from the kitchen, I peek into the butler's pantry again. The room is empty. I can hear the television down the long hall blasting from the study, where my father is most likely sitting in his favorite chair with his drink, watching the news. Where's my mother? I haven't seen her since my bath. I check in her room and bathroom. I walk back down to the kitchen and realize the door to the small bathroom by the maid's room has been closed since I passed it the first time. I knock. "Mom?" No answer. Then I hear something muffled. It sounds like my name, possibly. I turn the ornate glass door handle and push open the door. My mother is sitting on the toilet, but the top seat is down, so she is just sitting. Her head is in her hands. Her face is red and wet. She looks up, smiles, and wipes one eye with the side of one hand. She smiles again and tries to say my name. "Steenie." But it comes out as more of a croak. "What's wrong, Mom?" I wonder if the costumes disappointed her or she's upset because we got so much candy. "I'm okay." She sits up, wipes her other eye. "Go to bed. I'll come tuck you in a minute." "What's wrong?" I ask again. "It's nothing. It's silly. It's just a day." Yes, Halloween is just a day, nothing to cry over. And then it hits me. I was so wrapped up in trick-or-treating that I forgot. "It's your birthday," I say, seared with guilt. "Happy birthday." She pulls me close. "It's not your job to remember." She wipes her face with both hands now. She stands up. "Your father never remembers my birthday. It's just a day. It doesn't matter.